Okay, so we are here today, and it is Sunday, May 10th, 2020. And we are now in the third and final call of the Coming Together Summit. We're really pleased that you're back with us. We're very excited about the call today. Today is light in action. It's a very dynamic action that we're going to be speaking about. And we have our lovely people, panelists here with us today. So we have Alejandra. Can you just wave, Alejandra? And Lizanne, and Eleni, and Judith, and Stan, and I. So we have a nice full house, and we're just going to see, you all just energetically with us here. So here we go. I just need to shut the door 1 second.
Hi,
So,
everybody.
so our panelists beautifully agreed to come on today and have a conversation with us about their journey of spirit coming into action, light into action. And before we go there, I would like us to just do a little meditation, a little tune in, and to say that today Tonya could not join with us. She had planned to be here, but she was called away by her sister who needed her assistance. So she's in here with spirit, and we send her our love because she'll check in later. All right, so she has been our beautiful tuning fork, and today we're going to tune our own forks. All right, so I invite you, if you'd like, just to close your eyes. We're going to do about 4 or 5 minutes. So as you take a breath in through the nose, fill up the chest. And as you exhale, let your body soften with the exhale from whatever you've come from earlier in your morning or afternoon. Again, inhale, exhale through the nose, big breath in. Exhale, allow yourself to just soften and release. Continue those circular breaths for a few moments. And everybody here now with the next breaths, inhaling in, and begin to connect with that inner light, that inner flame. Fuel it up a little bit with the inhale and the oxygen. And as you exhale, just continue to drop deeper into yourself, in that very center. And with the next breaths, expand the light, expand the flame, and let it begin to fill your whole body. Head to toe, front to back, side to side. And with every exhale, allow any and all worries, concerns, thoughts just drift away. We're all in the right place at the right time. Okay, with your next breaths in now, expand that light that you've created so beautifully out into your auric field, into your energy bodies. Just keep expanding it 360 degrees. With the breath, with the intention. And in the next inhales, intend now to connect your light with all the points of light that are here, all the different locations. And we create this beautiful neural network, this beautiful circuitry between us. Sometimes if you place your 10 fingertips together, it really helps to create that circuitry within you. And now expanding that to create just the circuitry within this group, everyone who's here and everyone who'll be listening later. And when you're ready, open your eyes. And on the very first call, we did this beautiful thing, one hand over the heart, and we touched the screen to really just give that touch at a distance. So let's just do that. So all the participants that are here, you can just reach your hand up and just touch onto our screens. But we're going to keep our eyes open today. So we do this visually, we do this energetically, connecting. And we have the words of a wise Rolfer, seeing is touch at a distance. So we can see one another today. We're in the awake light space today. Just feeling all the participants. We see you with our energetic eyes. So we welcome you. Beautiful. Okay. All right. So let's segue into this beautiful conversation that we want to have today, because as we go into light and action, it is dynamic and it is about engaging our gifts. It's about igniting them, engaging them, and coming from them, and then having a way to offer that out to a larger pool, whether that just be energetically or with a group of people. And so we have a couple questions we're going to pose to all the panelists. And it's just nice because we all six of us know each other fairly well. We've gone through a couple years of really deep work, deep transformation, and it's arrived us here right to this point and this place and time. So the sharing of journeys is really beautiful because it gives us an opportunity to hear somebody else's story, and a place where we may have faltered, we can give a little bit of counsel or encouragement to help somebody through their path or where they're going to. So let's begin. So this is, open up your microphones and we'll just have this conversation. And the first question that we wanted to pose to you all is, what steps did you take? What steps did you take to catapult your gifts to the forefront? Because everybody here has gifts. Everybody on the call has gifts. And a lot of people have put them into action. But we want to now have this conversation. So what steps did you take to catapult your gifts to the forefront?
Okay, I'll go ahead and start off.
Okay.
When I lived in LA, I had a job as a firefighter, paramedic. I had full insurance. I had retirement. I had the full security thing. But I wanted to be a healer. I wanted to learn to put my hands on people and do some healing work. So I made the decision to follow my heart. And, there's a part of it that was a little bit scary, of leaving the security. But I said, I'm going to follow my heart and live or die. But this is my choice. This is my life. So those are the first steps I took.
Okay. Anybody want to chime in? Judith, you getting ready to come on?
Yeah, I think following your heart is one of the fundamental principles. When I was reflecting on the question earlier today, I found the phrase catapulting yourself out there, it made me smile, because for me that's came a long way down the line, and there was an awful lot of work that had to be done before I got to the stage where I felt I could be catapulted or launched out there. And for me, it was helpful to think of it really as being a pathway. And the first most important step for me was acknowledging that there is a pathway to follow. That was the most difficult thing. And then taking, baby steps along the path. And it was very much stop and start. There were lots of difficulties along the way. There was a lot of soul searching, a lot of work to do on myself, because it inevitably threw up a lot of things. And one of the big things that it threw up was fear. And I'm sure that's the same for a lot of people, and I'm sure we'll talk about it throughout the course of this call. But fear was a major stumbling block. And once you recognize that fear is at the bottom of a lot of things, a lot of the stop-start process, this sense of being stagnated, once you recognize fear as something that you have to try and tackle one way or another, then things do become a bit easier. It's almost like recognizing your enemy and seeing what it is that you're facing. So fear was a big thing, and developing intuition. So intuition, almost like a muscle that you can teach and you can practice and you can learn from, and that is something that really helps you decide what you're comfortable with, and just propels you forward a bit. In terms of launching myself out there, the retreat a couple of years ago, the Unfolding of the Heart retreat in Mallorca that Susan and Sven were running, had this wonderful visualization, and Eleni and Alejandro will remember this. And we had to visualize ourselves at the bottom of a ladder in a big tent in a circus. And the idea was that you had to climb up the ladder, and there were various platforms along the way. But the point was to get to the top of this ladder. And when you're at the top, you would catch hold of this bar, this trapeze bar, and you would grab hold of it and you would swing beautifully and elegantly through the air. And I remember thinking, as I got to the top, that this was something that I was not going to be able to do. But I was very, very gently but firmly pushed and grabbed hold of this bar. And it was at that moment I thought, I'm confronting my fears, and I'm looking fear in the eye. And it helped unlock a lot of things. So I think really, by way of summary, the most important thing for me was identifying fear, trying to find ways of dealing with it through healing, through dowsing, through talking therapy, whatever works, and developing intuition. So yeah, sort of helped me find my voice, really.
Beautiful. Thank you, Judith. That's lovely to hear and to remember about the trapeze. And that's a great exercise for everyone here to just do that visualization. Imagine yourself, going up the ladder, and then the next thing from the platform is that swing, that little piece the handle is going to be thrown to you. Can you catch it? Can you go? And can you hop to the other side? There was a participant, I remember that, and everybody was in various stages with that. But one participant I remember very keenly was because she went up, got swung, and kept dropping and then gone up. But she had done that in the meditation like 15 times. And what was it going to take for her to be able to follow through with the swing to get to the other side? So, yeah, thank you for that. Somebody else want to jump in?
I'll dive in. I think for me, the biggest thing I have done so far was to leave a really pretty thriving practice and an entire community and 30 years of just comfort zone on the East Coast, and followed the guidance from Spirit that said your healing practice and your gifts to the world can no longer take second place to, you know, your own wishes, which was my comfort zone and working my other practice and having a good life and friends and all that. And Spirit said it's time to move forward. Moved to the West Coast where the rest would be shown, which was that was a challenge for me. I know Judith spoke about fear. For me, it wasn't fair. I'm a pretty fearless girl, but for me, it was about surrender, because I'm like a control freak, epic, and like big. I like to, I call it my epic control freakery. I like to be in charge always. I like to know my steps. I like to see the path. I like to plan the path, and that was not going to happen. And it was like, you take one step and we'll show you the breadcrumb, and you take another step and we'll show you the other. And for me, I really had to move into a place of really deep surrender, deep trust, deep knowing, and deep faith. And I became that fool in the tarot card, blindfolded on a tightrope and just setting across a precipice and not knowing. I will say that each time I fell, there was always someone there to catch me, whether it was Suzanne and Sven, Eleni, Alejandro, Judith, and other soul family. But the point is, there's always, when you set off like the fool, which is the innocent, there'll always be someone to catch. Spirit, I find, never sets up the course unless the antidote for the obstacles are posted too. And so for me, every step of the way, wherever there were obstacles, there were the antidote. And I saw the hands of Spirit. I saw the hands of grace from the Great Mother Goddess. It was just a perfect, it was perfect, all of it. And along the way, I was dragged kicking and screaming into the deepest surrender that I've known. And I'm not fully surrendered yet. I think that's always a part of the human story, because the ego mind loves to keep us in limitation. And so it holds us, prevents us from surrendering. But I'm still dancing with surrender, and I can say that months later, I am prevailing in that fight with surrender. So that has been my big journey so far. And I want to just say, stay tuned, more to come, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisanne. You know, it's a beautiful point we're at, to merging our humanity and all those pieces of our humanity and spirit, right? I think if we're being asked to do that, especially now in this time that we're in, that the summit has, you know, come through this time period, this worldwide event that we're in. Yeah, so that's beautiful, because that's where we get to help each other, because we're all going to have different, we have our strengths, and then we're going to have our places we need to put up our hand or throw a rope to us, right? Throw the life jacket to us. Because having, when I ask myself these questions, asking for support was one of the top things on my list, asking for support. And Sven and I still, we still do that in our continuing work and evolution. So that's a process that just evolves with us. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing so beautifully from your heart, you all. So let me we'll come back to this question's out there. I just want to add the other two questions in case somebody wants to go another direction. So what steps did you take to catapult your gifts to the forefront? What obstacles were in your way? We've been touching on that a bit. And what inspirations kept you moving forward?
I'll chime in. It's interesting because when I was sitting with these questions, it's been such a windy path for me. And 10 years ago, I got this very clear download about what my purpose and mission is in this lifetime. And I was so ready, and actually I'm a very big doer. So I was like, let me make this happen. And nothing was quite catching, And so, I've been doing healing work for a long time in various modalities, but it felt very scattered. And I had this vision and I wanted to just bring it all under this vision. And I wasn't ready, and it wasn't right timing. And there was a lot, of what was already been mentioned about working through a lot of my own stuff. But I think that the catapult piece, like what actually catapulted me forward, was saying yes. And I think once I said yes to this mission, with a full body yes, then there was just no going back. And yes, fear continues to come up, and I continue to work with it, but it is more of it's not in the forefront anymore. It's more of it's sort of like an old friend now back here that I'm like, okay, yeah, I know you're there, but I'm still moving in this direction. And so for me, the first thing was really just saying yes. And I had been saying like little yeses along the way, but the full yes to this, where I am so, and part of it is that it just was too hard not to do it, because I was just seeing, I could see it. I can still see it so clearly, like what it is that, how I want to show up, and to have the opportunity to do it now feels amazing. And I think that there's, for me, Susan, you had just talked about this, like seeking support. I think that for me, what has been so important for me on this journey is having a community of people that I can turn to, that I trust, who see me and are witness to my journey and can support me when I'm faltering. And I remember when what keeps coming up for me is when I did my application for the Spirit Doctor Team Practitioner Program. And I think one of the questions was like, what am I hoping to grow, or what's my edge, or where do I want support on? And it was like, I at that point, I felt like I was wavering. There was some wavering that was happening. And really, I think and it almost felt like at that point, all I needed was someone to see me in where I was, and to say, it's funny to say this, but it's like, to be a mirror and be like, yes, here we are. We're all in this, we all have our own paths, of course, but that to be honored for the vision that I have for myself and for the collective. And so a group of people. So, and for me, these sisters here in Sven have been like such an amazing support for me in the last year and a half, and others, of course, my family and my community here. And that has been a really important piece for me. And so, the other piece that came up for me also, that I want to add, that has been an obstacle, and is that I realized really when I was going to the retreat in Mallorca, the very first, like 2 years ago, the one that Judith was referencing, was just so much deep programming that I really needed to unwind and clear in order to really fully step into my yes. And really, I think it wasn't until I said my yes that I realized all this, everything that was coming up that's saying, no, you can't do this, you can't do this. That was just not, it's not current time, and it's not relevant for me in where I am right now. It's what, it was so part of me, I didn't even see it until I really said yes, and said, yes, this is who I am, and claimed who I am, and claimed what it is I wanted to bring forward. And then, like, especially at that point, having support around me was really great to work through and unwind some of that.
Beautiful. Thank you, Eleni.
Yeah, and I would totally jump in, you know, on the bandwagon of community, Eleni, because for me, it has been, I think, just such a cornerstone in being able to go through it together and to realize that all of these issues are not just, you know, you're not alone in it. Because I think it's less and less that people are, you know, presenting themselves as having everything already figured out, but in an age where, you know, social media and websites and everything portray kind of like the perfect image of people out there with their work. And there's this, you know, like idea that you already have everything figured out, to come back into the basics and this understanding that the work always is continuing and is in ever expansion. And I know that ever since I started working with you, Susan and Sven, that has always been, I've loved that you've always been so clear about that the work for you also continues. And so I think it's just, again, like demystifying the process and coming back to that conditioning piece that Eleni also touched about, that it's such like deprogramming of the conditioning that we receive from society, being like, you have to think a certain way and be a certain way. And, you know, Lizanne also touched about that how do you learn to trust your inner knowing, right? And go back to the inner knowing. And so for me, having that community and certain structures to plug into, or to also, you know, like talk to people about what has worked for them and witness them, has been incredibly helpful. And I realize with, you know, people that I work with now and with myself, is that whatever work you are choosing to do, it is first and foremost for yourself, and that you chose it for a deep healing for you. And that when you are breaking those blocks and that conditioning within yourself, you're also, you know, carving out a path energetically for everybody else. So just by the fact of being on this call together, the 6 of us, and then, you know, all of the participants that signed up for this and that are tapping into this, it's like the consciousness of us just, you know, energetically, it's tapping into that information and like syncing up all the time. And I have always, you know, found that incredibly supportive, and I'm very grateful that, you know, this forum exists and that we have this community. And, you know, it really has been through the Spirit Doctor Team practitioner program, as Eleni mentioned, of being able to have some of that like one-on-one support and that witnessing of an acknowledgement of where you are and the fact that it's like, it's okay. And then how do you grow and go forward? Yeah, through that.
Yeah, thank you, Alejandra. That just reminds me, because I see people writing, yes, this fear piece, first of all, number one, that is the probably key piece that we need to move through. And, you know, with some sense of whether we burn through it or we carefully walk through it with the help of others, it doesn't matter, you know, whatever is needed. There's not one way for this path to what we say, clear the path. There's not one way for it. And we have to really honor our own process. Obviously, you know, Sven and I work a lot together. His process is very different from mine. He will just cut through with a knife, and I might go around in figure eights for just a little while until I'm comfortable to really take it forward. And so that as we speak a little bit about the Spirit Doctor Practitioner Program, just to drop it in for one moment, and to say that second pillar was huge for all of us, that trust, right? The trust pillar, which was about trusting not only ourselves, but also trusting Spirit. And we used to say, Spirit has our back. And so we're hearing everybody say that in so many different ways, and knowing, you know, when you get the push or you get the nudge or you hear the voice, Are you get the sign? Turn right here. We're at a fork in the road, you know, as a collective humanity. And maybe for some of us here on the call as well, some of the participants, look to see where you are on the path. You know, are you busy with the broom, cleaning it, sorting and sifting? Are you at a fork in the road to make a choice? Because we're all having to make some choices right now, some hard ones. And it's just par for the course that we've all chosen to be on in this time. Yeah. So just open it up here before we move to the last part of the call. We still have time. Just anything that's come up for any of you, or anything that you'd like to share with us or with the participants.
Well, the second question of the call was what obstacles would be in our way of stepping forward, and almost always it would be fear and doubt. So the question that comes to my mind is, where does all the fear and doubt come from? I mean, why do so many people have this? When, you know, for me, if I have fear about something, then I like to rush into it. You know, it invites me for action, step into it, run into it, and deal with it. And so that's my response. So the third question that we have is like, what inspirations keep us moving forward, and it just goes back to follow for me, follow my heart, and just go forward with that. So it's just amazing how much fear and doubt is in the world with people, and you know, about ourselves, about our abilities to do what it is that we want to do, because all of us on this call, we're healers. That's what we do. And so it's just it's just coming forward. Excuse me. It's just coming forward from the heart and entering in to what it is that is fear. That's just my way.
Mm-hmm. Now we just need to look at those fears, and I think, Judith, you said it as well. Sven just saying how he interacts with fear. Also, just when you said, I just had to look it straight in the eyes. And I mean, basically everybody has said that. We can't circumvent that, but we certainly can move through it. And yes, this programming, you know, I just see somebody's, Alejandra, mentioning shame too, you know, of feeling small, taking risks, doubt, fear, shame, all of these things. This has been a kind of curse on humanity, so to speak. But this is the beautiful thing right now. We're here to clear that away. We're here to move through it, not around it, but through it. And that's what so beautifully is demonstrated here. And knowing, you know, that most likely there's going to be a little bit up ahead for us to do too. Yeah.
I think for healers, it's particularly common for there to be a lot of fear in the background, which often manifests itself in problems with the throat, problems of speaking out, whether it's through, you know, past lives, having had, you know, having had to make vows of silence. But it's a very common issue, and certainly with fellow healers and with people coming for healing, one of the starting points often is around the throat, because people have problems expressing themselves, and once you've faced fear, once you have looked it in the eye and you've confronted it, then I think things generally tend to start to unlock. But it for so many people, it is the main stumbling block, and it does lead to this sense of not being able to move forward, which is so fundamental in this spiritual path to get some form of momentum going. Yeah, so big obstacle.
Thank you, Judith.
I just wanted to add in to what Judith is saying, because I just remembered one of the visions I had during a group Spirit Doctor team session, and it was me going up the side of a mountain that ended up being a volcano. You might remember this from the retreat, and looking down and seeing the fires below, and just having the flashes of all the women, especially, but people who have been pushed into the fire for showing up, for saying yes, for being healers, for whatever reason, and realizing at this point in time, right now, we can choose. I mean, this is what came through to me in this is like, we're at this point to choose to jump into the fire, burn all that's not needed, and like have a rebirth. I mean, come out new into what is, so burning away that which isn't. And I just felt like it was so clear to me at that point, this, I'm thinking about this, I think in part because what Judith is saying too, all the history that is held in us from past lives that may prevent us from saying our full yes. And I just had that in that vision of seeing all of this, where all this fear can kind of contract around. And that now we can really just choose to say we're done. I mean, not we're done with fear, but just to say, like, I'm ready to make a different choice. I can choose now. And we are collectively, a lot of us are, of course, at a place where we can make that choice and say, like, we're choosing our own path on this.
Yes, it, and I see it's written here, maybe also the fear of the fear, it even takes us a step back further, just to be afraid, a fear of facing fear. And that's when I think and now is the perfect time, because we're being pushed. We're being so pushed right now, energetically and in so many different ways, to let the warrior archetype invite it into yourself, to allow that to help you to face a fear. Bring the warrior archetype up. We've all got aspects of these archetypes. Yeah. And then again, I can't say it because receiving a hand to walk through the fire is sometimes the best way to go. Sometimes the best way to go is to jump into that volcano, really trust and jump in. And sometimes it just depends. We need a friend. We need a hand to help us walk through the fire. Because, that is that phrase didn't come out of anywhere. Healer, heal thyself first. And that's what we're all have had to do and doing, so we can know that that's the commonality. And remember when we put the first call out, calling all healers, and almost 100 people signed in, it was beautiful because we broadened that term, that we said, yes, everybody has healing capacities, whether you're a mom at home or a nurse or a therapist or a counselor or a light worker, an energy worker or massage therapist or esthetician or any aspect of this, or working in IT, working at a bank. We can bring those qualities to the forefront. And it's the call right now. It is the call to humanity right now, at least from my point of view.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that, Susan. And it's again and again to me, and part of what I see with the work is that it's the new that is channeled through each of us and through the work, and almost I would say like through the structures that enable the work. And I used to have a bit of an aversion to structure, and because I think most of the world is stuck in the structure, and so I think there was this big pull for me to go like beyond and out and all these things. And yet at the same time, I have found it also incredibly helpful to, yes, it's all there, it's open, but just like bringing it back into structure and into intention, right? With structure. Like, I think that's a powerful piece of it. The intention, even the intention of us being here together, the intention followed by the structure of a Zoom call, of a Zoom conference where we can, see each other. And then what are you going to do after this call? Like, right? What are we all going to do as individuals after this call? And maybe as a group after this call, right? Like, what are the structure pieces that then go with this energy that opens up, or with this moving forward? And I always find that structure has the power to really almost like ground a new frequency and vibration on the planet in a powerful way, right? That it just like brings it back into that physical part of the world that we move and live through. And for me, that's more and more exciting, and that's definitely something that also takes patience, right? Because it's always that part of divine timing, like so many mentioned, that sometimes it takes time, and sometimes I thought I was ready to launch 5 years ago, and then today it's like it's like its own process, it's its own, I think, being in a way. And I love this quote that says, the day that you plant the seed isn't the day that you eat the fruit, right? And it's just kind of like every single harvest has its own time, and who knows what we are each planting. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So every step, because the steps are important, and every step we take is a launch, right? And we're going. Then Judith mentioned momentum, then we get that momentum going. Then we get our heart leading us, then we surrender, and then we jump into the fire. I think we've got a pretty interesting formula going here.
And I just want to touch like so deeply on part of that process, Susan, that you're speaking about is also really dark, right? Like, and I think it can catapult us, like for me, for sure, like heavily into like depressive episodes and things. And yet it's kind of like part of that journey of healing and seeing some pieces, and also just knowing that it's okay. Like, I feel like there was such a shame sometimes, and why am I not dealing with this the way I should, or all of these things. But I think it's part of the work that we're doing. And I think it's also in the last, few years, giving a voice to that, and also saying like, hey, it's normal. The shadow side is just as important to acknowledge and to be with, and to see, and just, like not trying to shove it down and do the spiritual bypassing that I think, it was like the go-to route years ago. And it's I don't know, it's for me, it's ever more enriching, and it's an easier journey for sure with myself.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Alejandra, because that is, as we go through the phases of light and the integration of the dark, these are important pieces we cannot skip through as much as we would like, And I would be one of those persons that would say, can we just skip that chapter? It's easy for me to be in the light. Yeah, so, oh, how beautiful. Any last comments before we?
I just want to jump in and talk more, just touch in a little bit on what Ale said about the dark places. I believe I know certainly in this country, we're to be like always doing well. And I know certainly East Coast, where I lived for a long time, and there's nothing, there's no darkness that should touch you or anything. But I've come to regard the dark as actually the most valuable, or one of the most valuable aspects of the journey. The dark is the void space. It's the creative womb. I've come to, in my life, notice that it's a place of rebirth. It is that place of that primal dark mother. And the gold is always there also. The gold is in the dark, and it is really going down deep in the belly of that dark place, and finding the gold that's hidden there. And it's not a bad thing. I know one of my most valuable exercise in dark places is going to sweat lodges. My very first sweat lodge was many years ago, down in South America, and it was such a rebirth for me, being held in that dark womb-like place and leaving things there, leaving the things that needed to be let go, the fear, the doubt, whatever, and bringing forth the gift that only the dark can provide. And so I actually, I feel like the dark is very, very valuable. It's a part of a well-formed journey. I wouldn't personally trust a healer who's as one of my teachers says, always walk the pampered path. I don't, I'm not, because you cannot talk my story, you cannot understand, and you won't be able to hold that full space for me. So the path of the wounded healer is a worthy path. I know for me it's been a worthy path, and I can bring all of those dark places and all of the gold that I mine from those dark places, I bring them to my practice as very valuable tools, and helps me to understand. And I'm sure along the journey there will be more dark places, there'll be more opportunities to rebirth, and there certainly will be more opportunities to jump into the fire, that alchemical fire that births the phoenix. And so I'm excited about it all, really. Thank you, Susan.
Beautifully expressed, really beautifully. So what a rich conversation. I think we could go on. I know we could. However, what I want to say is to everybody here, including ourselves, is just to take a moment and just anchor in this energy, anchor in this beautiful energy of taking risks, of letting fear move to the side, of coming from our hearts, of really valuing what we're here to do and what we have to offer. First, self-value, right? Valuing what we have before we ask somebody else to value it.
Okay, I'd just like to add in one thing, is that our work as healers in whatever modality that we do, it's really just beginning. You know, the aftermath of what everybody's been through, and what we're still going through to a certain degree. It's the aftermath that is the big deal. It's not the fact that we're locked down in our houses. So our work will now really just begin with what it is that we do. So that's all I have.
Yeah, let me add into that, because I think that kind of takes me full circle to why we were inspired to do this summit. And actually the Calling All Healers just came, as that's the action there, Calling All Healers. And look at how many of you answered that call. And because it is a time now to step up and step forward, step through the fire, step through the fear. And we are being given a great opportunity with the worldwide event to actually move through all kinds of fears, all kinds of deceptions, all kinds of illusions, and come to our place of truth, and come to the place where we can bring our gifts forward step by step. But there are going to be a few leaps maybe now, and not so many little steps. Could be a few leaps going on. There always, as a post dancer, there's a really, and to speak about momentum, there's always that, you know, before the leap, there is run, 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 leap. There's not just pop, leap, unless you're Baryshnikov, he could probably do that. There's always those runs leading up to that leap. So take this opportunity, everybody, to get your running going and get ready for the leaps, and bringing your gifts forward. It's such a beautiful time. Okay, very nice. Let's take a moment here. I have just yes, I've got this beautiful crystal ball. So let's circle this around now and come into a moment of just quiet meditation. So let's take a last journey together. Begin to visualize that beautiful blue spiral staircase. The one that takes us through our spiritual evolutionary path. See it really clearly in your mind. The spaces around it, between the steps. I'll just invite you to take a few more steps up that stairwell, staircase. Maybe just standing on a step or seeing that there is another platform there. Go for that platform. And with your eyes wide open, take in the vista there. Take in the horizon. Take in the view. Take it in 360 degrees. This is an open air stairway. And from this place, ask yourself, what are my next steps? What are my next steps to bring my gifts to the forefront? Will I feel comfortable? How will I show up? Am I standing fully in my shoes? Bringing all the things that I've accumulated. Wisdoms, wounds, everything. This lifetime, all lifetimes. Culmination to this moment. And the last question is, what is now, at this moment, what is now calling me? And just allow yourself to sit with those questions. If there's not complete answers, it's fine. We have time to fill those in. We might not know yet. We might have to go around another curve of the spiral to answer that next question. When you're ready, just come back. As we get ready to close the call, Sven and I want to thank each of you for being here, all the participants, and to thank our panelists here today for joining us and sharing so beautifully from their heart and without holding back, sharing the stories that got us here. And it's beautiful to sit here in comradeship with you all. Very beautiful, all of us here. So I have a song to play. You know, as Tonya has been giving us songs so beautifully, there's a song that between the first and the second summit call, I woke up at 3 a.m. and I heard this phrase, from a distance. I was just like from a distance. And then I started to hear the song from a distance. I'm not going to try to sing it because we have a great singer here named Bette Midler. She sang this song in 1980s. Anyway, I want to play it. And everybody's given beautiful thank yous. Everybody, you can all see the chats, right? Yeah, I love these chats. I just love these chats. Thank you, everyone. Great opportunity. I know we feel so confident with everybody here. I'm really anchoring in this, the beauty of this call that you all are here, the summit, and what we've all intended to do and what we've done. So let me just, you're going to continue to see me. We had a little test earlier to make sure this was going to work with Alejandro. So I'm going to just set that up for us and then just allow this song to kind of wash through and give us a beautiful closure. Sorry about that, everyone.
From a distance, the world looks blue and green, and the snow-capped mountains white. From a distance, the ocean meets the stream, and the eagle takes to flight. From a distance, there is harmony, and it echoes through the land. It's the voice of hope, it's the voice of peace, it's the voice of every man. From a distance, we all have enough, and no one is in need. And there are no guns, no bombs, and no disease, no hungry mouths to feed. From a distance, we are instruments marching in a common land, playing songs of hope, playing songs of peace. They're the songs of every man. God is watching us, God is watching us, God is watching us from a distance. From a distance, you look like my friend, even though we are at war. From a distance, I just cannot comprehend what all this fighting is for. From a distance, there is harmony, and it echoes through the land. And it's the hope of hopes, it's the love of loves, it's the heart of every man. It's the hope of hopes, it's the love of loves. This is the song of every watching us from a distance.
Thank you, Bette Midler. So I want to just close with one last thing, and that is something that has come from all of you, because it has to do now. Let's just look at the future. Let's look at the future and the ways that you're going to bring that future into being. And this has come directly from all of you here on this. Paint it in Technicolor. Dream it into existence and sing it into life. That's what we get to do. I got to read it again. It's so good. This came from you all. Paint it in existence. Paint it in Technicolor. Dream it into existence and sing it into life. Okay. Much blessings, everybody. Much love.
Much
Thank
love
you.
to everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.